Welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Some of you know me as Triangle Investor from social medias. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Hunter, VP of Exploration for Forum Energy Metals. Rebecca, always a pleasure talking to you. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. It's been a while. So,
It has, and I'm really glad that we are talking now after the results. You announced the first results from your summer drill program yesterday. I got to say, finally, why did it take so long to get the results? Please explain to my and your audience.
yeah, it took a long time. The labs are busy and we basically I got all the drill results in, or at least these ones that we got in, just got out in middle of August. And so I thought that was lots of time. We were talking with SRC, and so I thought, we'd have this stuff by Beaver Creek. You would have a similar time frame as last year, but it just didn't pan out that way. And then by the time everything got super delayed, it just didn't make sense to just put out SINT results or, put out results. So, kind of yeah, I guess a mess up on our part, not recognizing how busy it was, and then just the labs. So yeah, that's why.
Yeah, but nobody could expect that it would take this amount of time. So I get it. Uh, Update on the results. I know it is only one third of results, but you can probably draw some conclusions about what are these first results telling you, and have they met your expectations?
Yeah, so the first results, like we feel very positive about it. And so the kind of this first batch, we focused on Tatiggaq. So that's where we had both drills at the start was Tatiggaq. And so I wanted to get to Tatiggaq Main, do a little bit of infill and expansion, and then also get to Tatiggaq West and do some infill and expansion. Um, so yeah, so the first, the Tat 14, basically stepping back from our really good intercept last year, which had the 2% U3O8 over 11 meters. And so basically stepping back, intersecting, another 20, 15 meters to the kind of south east of that, we hit the 7% over 1.3. So another good lens. And so these are all these kind of steep, very steep, stacked or kind of subparallel lenses. So it's just showing. So what we're excited about there is we hit another one of those lenses, and that we have these high grade, basically lenses, and several of them at the Tatiggaq Main. So we kind of proof of concept. And so we're excited about that. We know that that has that potential. And then we stepped to the west, and so we got some good intercepts there, but a little lower grade. And so, we got a couple good intercepts into there, kind of infilling. What we were trying to do there is kind of again do that expansion of width. And so at Tatiggaq Main, if we go back there, we have about 30 to 50 meters there between kind of historical drilling and our drilling in like the width. And so the Tatiggaq West has a bit more width in some extent, just because you have these really thick intercepts, but they're lower grade. And so that was just kind of, I guess, just showing us, giving us more information on the Tatiggaq West. And then we stepped out to the even farther to the west, and so we know that as continuity. Again, lower grade. So we might be at, the kind of farther reaches of that pod. We're not sure. We do have the lower grades, but it's still there. And so, we get the 30.1% over 30 meters. That's fairly significant intercept in that TAT 11. So yeah, we're really encouraged, but we do have some lessons learned. And so, I knew that, it's structurally complex. And so Tatiggaq is almost analogous to a bit of a gold kind of system, where you get the structurally hosted gold, vein gold. Tatiggaq has a bit of a feel like that. So you get these lenses, and they can be a bit pinch and swell, a bit nuggety, I guess, if you use the gold kind of terms. And so that really it kind of showed us that. And so we have these really high grade lenses, but then you can get these lower pods. So I think some of the things I really learned here is that step outs, small step outs are key. So stepping out too far in this kind of setting, especially at Tatiggaq, is not a good strategy. one other aspect to the kind of structural continuity that was kind of learned is that we have these northwest faults and they really are offsetting the mineralization. And so it kind of steps kind of in a left kind of motion as we move farther to the east. And so that's one thing we still think the Tatiggaq fault extends, and we drilled some holes, on the periphery, and we hit really good alteration. We hit, well, some of those holes are still pending, so we'll see what the geochemistry says, but it's still elevated. So we know that the system's there. It's just honing in and knowing that kind of little bit of a nuggety thing, the structural disruption. That's kind of where we are when we're thinking about Tatiggaq now.
Yeah, I looked at the map of your drilling, and I see that the majority of drilling and exploration is focused on the west side of Orano's Kiggavik deposit. And by looking at the map, two main faults are going there: the Telon fault and the Simmons fault.
The systems, yes.
Sorry, I don't know, I didn't remember the name. And they're going also west-east direction. So,
Mhm.
do you plan to stick only in that area, or you would go a little bit further to the distant part of the property?
Lots of potential on the property. And so, yeah, those are kind of the main, I think, are kind of the main ore controlling structures or big fluid conduits. But the whole area has been shattered essentially. Like if you look at a mag map, um, you can see just the whole area is all disjointed by faults. East northeast one, similar to the Judge Sissons and Thelon. And it's also been transected by a whole bunch, just chopped right up with northwest as well. So so yeah, we're focusing at Tatiggaq because obviously that's the mineralization, and we still think there's lots of potential there. One thing I didn't mention at Tatiggaq, and we don't have the news out yet, we don't have the results, but the the first strategy was west and main. And so we completed that, and that's what the results are that we have. But the second strategy at Tatiggaq was to test all these subparallel faults. They're still a part of the Judge Sissons fault as a whole, but they're just subparallel faults within that big structure, essentially. Um, and so we've got results pending on that, including potentially a new zone to the north. So we have, some elevated counts up to 700 CPS to the north, which is really encouraging because that's kind of, that's even how we found the Tatiggaq main zone was just, very subtle elevated counts. And this isn't even that subtle. So we have a potential new zone. It's not connected to the Tatiggaq main. It's actually on a subparallel distinct structure. So yeah, more potential there. But we're chasing the whole property. So we're looking at the Thelon fault. We'll have news coming out about that as well because we're testing the Ned grid. That's right on the Thelon fault, as well as we tested some other kind of classic unconformity or unconformity contact targets that are on actually just subparallel faults, like not right on the Judge or the Thelon fault.
Yeah, you did small drilling last year, and how much of this drilling is a follow-up drilling, and how much is it to test the new areas?
So one area well, they're all kind of follow up to some degree, except yeah, they're all because the Ned we got to. So that was we just did one hole. We basically lost it at 100 meters, and so we needed to get back there. So we did another four holes there. Coincidentally, we lost several of those as well. Some of the areas we looked at last year, that was the Ned grid. And so, yeah, we did a couple more holes there. And then the other ones are areas that Cameco I was a part of. We drilled historically. So we went back to Kiggavik this year. And so we got two really good holes into Kiggavik, and they're mineralized. So, but the results are pending. So that's more news that'll be coming out in the future. And one of the exciting things about Kiggavik is that it's another mineralized zone, just like Tatiggaq. It has a bit of a different, I guess, style. Kiggavik, or Tatiggaq rather, they're both very structurally controlled, but Tatiggaq is kind of confined, so it has that granite body. And then we talk about that samopalitic body, and then the mineralization's kind of there. At Kiggavik, it's not quite the same. It's just the samopalitic body. So it's more similar to kind of Orano's deposits that have less of that granite influence. And so basically the mineralization is a lot thicker.
Mhm.
Some of it's as shallow, some of the lenses are as shallow as almost at surface. So, up to 5 meters down, like just below the till, to about 400 meters. So it has a much wider kind of, but it's in multiple lenses as well. It has a similar style that way, but it's just thicker. So we got back there and we got some really good results, some basically counts higher than we've ever intersected there. So that's encouraging, and we're excited to see what the actual assays come back at, and kind of an additional lens as well, kind of cutting through it at a better angle. And then the two other targets that we got to this year, again, we're looking for two things. Like this property is big, it's complex, it's sometimes hard to kind of, I guess, communicate exactly what we're trying to achieve here. But we have kind of the two unconformity type end member deposits we're chasing. And so we're looking for those basement hosted ones. That's Tatiggaq, that's Kiggavik, and we have numerous other targets like that. And then we're also trying to chase those unconformity contact ones. And in the Athabasca Basin, those ones tend to be much higher grade and in some ways more continuous. They make these nice pods, right at the unconformity contact into the basement along faults. But these are the high grade ones, like MacArthur, Cigar, the
Yeah.
stuff that, Canalaska's discovering right now. These are really key deposits to look for. So that's Ned, Loki, and Ira. These areas, we're looking for that. The only difference is that in the Thelon, those types of deposits haven't been found. And so all of Orano's stuff are those basement hosted ones. And it's usually those are the first ones to find. And they're usually a bit lower grade as well, like even in the Athabasca, those types of basement deposits, because you don't have that flute, you're in the really hard crystalline rock, like your granite countertops. They don't have as much fluid movement running through those as like the sandstone. Sandstone. So the sandstone ones typically are a lot larger, higher grade. And so, and the basin ones tend to be a bit lower grade as well. So they're typically, 0.5 to 1% overall kind of, mining grade when it comes down to it. Of course, I'd have to mention Arrow is quite an anomaly. Arrow is a type of deposit of that caliber, but higher grade. So they can come in higher grade end members for sure. But those other targets that we're looking for, we're also looking for those, and the Thelon hasn't demonstrated that to that extent yet. And so what we're excited about is that we got to three of them, and they're showing the alteration in the sand that you're kind of looking for with those types of deposits. And so extreme clay, and the right type of kind of the sulfide, whatever, all the kind of reductant stuff we look for when we look for these deposits. And so it's really, really encouraging. And so I'm really excited to showcase some of that, as we get the results. They're not mineralized at this stage. They're altered, they're elevated, but they're showing all the building blocks that's never been demonstrated before in the Thelon. So that's kind of the big upside and what I'm excited about.
Yeah, sometimes lower grades can point to an edge of some system, right? And you have to do it that way. I understand. Do you have some early plans? I know that depends on the budget and the ability to raise money, but do you have any early plans for 2025 exploration program there?
Yeah, like you said, we still have to raise money and do all that, but even this summer we did a lot of like we built our camp. So we got 7,000 meters in, we did some geophysics. And we also procured some stuff for next year. The most cost-effective way to kind of work up there is to basically barge stuff up in the summer, rather than flying it in the winter and stuff. So we did that. So we barged up a bunch of, drill supplies and all that sort of stuff. So that's already sitting in Baker, and other consumables so that we don't have to worry about that in the summer. And yeah, I mean, I would like to drill at least what we did this year. Like we didn't, because we had to build a camp and all that sort of stuff, we didn't actually get drilling until July. So typically up there, you can start in June. June is a good time to start up there. So we could get a whole extra month of drilling. So I'd like to do that at the very least. We have two drills up there, and drill, between 7,000 and 10,000 meters if we're lucky. Um, and if we can fundraise even more, I think a third drill would be very beneficial just because we really have to showcase the potential of this project. And again, we have that, abbreviated season just in the summer. We have Tatiggaq to expand, and like I kind of alluded to, it's going to be tricky. So we need to basically focus to delineate that one out and work on this new potential zone. A drill at Kiggavik would also be prudent, and just to build a resource there if there's one, and just have one drill dedicated to looking at all the other targets because there's many, and some of the ones in particular, Loki and Ira, that we drilled this past year show really good signs of something going on there.
Okay, quick return to the assays. I saw that the highest grade assays are from around 150 meters depth. So, is there any point of going even deeper?
What at Tatiggaq there is. So the drilling complexity kind of kept me from doing that this year, just because again, this stuff is wrapped up in clay. We tend to lose holes. We lost several holes. Sometimes even unfortunately, the one with the high grade, TAT 14, we lost right in the mineralized zone, which is annoying, but it happens because of the clay. But because of that clay, it's hard to go deeper sometimes. And so I'm just this year I was just reluctant to do some deeper tests because I'm like, I want to, expand. I want to infill. If the drill's going to be sitting and turning and trying to go deeper on this hole, like it could take a week, it could take two out of the drilling. And so I just didn't feel I had the time. But yeah, I mean, one of the things we have these fertile structures. We know that they could be deeper. There could be another samopolitic lens at depth. That is another aspect of the drilling that we kind of learned this summer, is that there is a lot more kind of samopolitic pods within this granite. And so it's definitely not isolated to just Tatiggaq proper, like kind of where we've drilled to date. We have it in the rest of it as well. So that also could mean that at depth there's even more. So it's worth testing, and there's potential there.
Very interesting. Rebecca, have you heard anything about any plans in the area from the local government for improving the infrastructure?
Well, I mean, there's some big projects kind of in the works, in the permitting and kind of consultation phase. So yeah, there's a big road that they would like to put in, basically from Churchill all the way up along the coast, and then a feeder road over to Baker Lake. The timeline on these, of course, is who knows.
Of course.
But but it's there, and I think, you know there's kind of an opportunity, I think, too, with Nunavut going through the devolution phase and becoming its own territory. So, I think they're going to really want to push for more infrastructure to kind of, have that autonomy within their own territory. So we'll see. Nothing, of course, next year, but there is talks and
Okay, but
and
in the long
plans.
term, there are
Yeah,
some plans,
yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Rebecca, can you give us an update on other forums, projects? Are they all in good standing? Any work done recently, or any plans to do some work soon?
And so, yeah, we have two projects that we're kind of pushing along. And so they're partner projects, so joint venture projects and option partner projects. So the big one that I should mention is our Northwest Athabasca project, and that's in partnership now with Global Uranium. And so, yeah, we're planning, hopefully a 2,000 meter program there this winter. And so that's a Northwest Athabasca project. So it's on the north end of the basin, kind of close to the Alberta border there. It also has a little historic resource there, not
Yeah, historic.
43101, but it's about 1 million pounds. It's just a little baby thing, but
Okay,
we
but it shows
drill.
there is some material over there.
Yeah. So and lots of good targets. So yes, we're going to be hopefully drilling there this winter, and then we'll be continuing on either with some summer work as well, if and then a big 2026 drill program there. So yeah, the
Sounds
rest of our projects are kind of just we're really focusing on the Aberdeen project at this time, and then yeah, Northwest this winter.
okay. You have a strategic investor that holds 9.9 equity interest in the company. Do you believe, I know it's a hypothetical question, but do you believe you are probably in contact with this person? Do you believe that he or she will continue to participate in the future financing and back the company going forward?
Yeah, yes. So we talk with them, and yes, they have a similar vision, and they're yeah. So I think they're going to participate as we go forward, and we really appreciate their support up to this point as well.
Of course. Rebecca, final question. News flow from the company. Of course, the drilling essays are the focus, but let's please update my audience about the news flow, what to expect and when to expect.
So, I mean, the assays are still trickling in. So over the next couple months, I hope to have the rest. I hate to make promises though, because it's been such a, you know what it has been. So, but yeah, in the next, month, 2 months, we should have all the results. And so, yeah, so I think we'll have kind of four or three main releases past this last one. We're going to talk about Tatiggaq in the next one and kind of that new potential zone and kind of what we were doing there. And then there'll be one, I think, dedicated to Kiggavik, and the results we get there. And then the blue sky targets, Ira, Loki, and Ned. So there'll be four releases to look forward to in the next little while. And that's on the Aberdeen project. And then yeah, the Northwest. We're going to be mobilizing and putting in a camp in early January and hopefully drilling there in February.
Excellent. That was Rebecca Hunter, VP of Exploration for Forum Energy Metals. Rebecca, I wish you luck with all your projects, not just Dillon Basin, and look forward to hear from you with updates. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucien.